Well, after several months of work, a little bit of a dry spot over the winter there, but several months of work, we finally got multiple modifications done to the simulator. It's a bit of a mess in here because it's still work in progress, but just to give you a nickel tour, the new steel frame is in place. Still have to hook the ventilation up. You can see the air ducts hanging there. The new equipment rack mounted on the front of the steel frame. And the big addition is the force feedback. So if you look underneath, you can see with all the bright LEDs blinking away there, the force feedback system is up and running. That's the controller chassis down below that has the drive electronics in it that I showed you in a prior video. Up top, you've seen drawings and some still shots, but this is the actual force feedback system now. So pardon my sloppy video work here, but here's the aileron roll right here. That's the aileron roll, back, forth, back to center. And here's the elevator movement right here. And I'll show you how this all links up when I get inside the cockpit. I have the rudder motor here, but I don't have a gearbox to apply appropriate forces. So for now, the rudder motor is temporarily mounted in here just to act as a very expensive potentiometer, if you will, so that I'm picking up my rudder movements through the force feedback system, but it's not yet applying forces as I want it to eventually. I've got to get a planetary gearbox for that. So let's take a look inside the plane. I'm going to pause the video for a second and get set up inside the plane and show you a very scary view with the instrument panel completely removed so that you can see all the way through to the force feedback mechanism. We'll be back here in just a moment. Alright, so here we are in the cockpit, and as I said, a somewhat scary view because the instrument panel was gutted in order to get everything in. You'll see the radios are laying on top of the instrument panel right now, and there's wires dangling everywhere that hook up to everything that we took out. But let me slide up here. Took it all out so that I could reroute the aileron drive mechanism. As you can see, the old system with the single chain crossing in front is gone, and as I roll the ailerons, you'll see a center pulley, a center sprocket, I should say, moving on the chains. That is actually connected to the original Cessna aileron linkage that you can see rolling there, and in the center I've replaced it the original 4-inch pulley with a set of 3-inch pulleys, and instead of the cables, of course, going down and under the tunnel back to the connections up to the ailerons, they now go straight up and they hook to a drive shaft. So if you look here, pardon my shaky camera, you'll see the force feedback unit that we looked at a moment ago, and as I roll it, you'll see the aileron roll taking place. And if I move the elevators in and out, you'll see the elevator movement as the drive shaft moves in and out. So I'm going to move back in my seat here, and I'll show you that from back here, of course, with the yokes, as soon as I can get my camera back far enough. So now you've got yoke movement for the ailerons and for the elevators. So that's how I've linked it all up. Now I'm going to engage it here, and we'll see if things are going to behave for us. So let me start the aircraft up and turn my fuel on. The fuel's on already. Mixture's in. We'll give it a little bit of throttle and we'll see if she's going to start for us here. Now, I don't think you can detect it in the video, but I'm feeling engine vibration coming through, of course. And I had demoed that when I had the engine vibration turned up rather high on the bench test. But let's see what happens when we throttle her up. Okay, I've got some adjustments to do. I am getting force in the yokes now, and if you look very carefully back there, you'll actually see the elevator drive belts vibrating as it applies the forces. But everything is working. When I taxi, I feel runway bumps. When I take off, I feel the sudden shift of weight on the controls as the aircraft begins to generate lift against the elevator, and I can feel all the forces. So everything seems to be working pretty good. Let me throttle this down so you can hear me a little bit better. And if you look, you'll notice the elevator's settled in. So with it throttled up, if I take the elevator, it takes very little force to move it back because of the prop wash, and it floats back there pretty easily. If I throttle down, the weight of the elevator draws the yoke back in, and that's all done through the force feedback system. Now, the only thing I've had to add to the cockpit here to make all this work, I've got a small switch, very subdued here, no labels on it, that activates and deactivates the force feedback system for normal use. And unfortunately, because the system has the potential to drive enough force into the yoke to pin you back, I've got an emergency disconnect switch, a rather large one, so it's real easy to palm it if you have to. It'll be taking up residence in one of the vacant instrument holes in the main instrument panel. Not too thrilled about that, but I can't think of a better place to locate it that's easily accessible and at least doesn't jump out at you. So I'll get some more video when the system's assembled and I'm flying a little bit, and give you another look at it once this mess of wire and gaping holes are back to looking like an instrument panel again.